Welcome to According to Sam, folks. This is episode 333. The magic number 333. Maybe this will be the podcast that goes viral. But thank you guys for joining me today. I have been seeing some incremental increases in views, and I really appreciate you guys watching. I have a really good show for you guys again today. Probably not going to get through all of this stuff, but let's get right into it. We're still talking about the Obamagate scandal, and this is heating up. They've convened a grand jury. This just happened today that the DOJ has convened a grand jury on the issue, and these are the first steps. I mean, this is a very, very serious scandal. The Epstein scandal is a serious scandal. It's not like Epstein is not a serious scandal. And people that are telling you that the reason that Russiagate is becoming a huge scandal now is to divert from the Epstein scandal. It's all the same scandal, people. This is all the same scandal. This is a scandal of rogue elements in our intelligence community under the Obama administration. But that's why I say it's not, it's all connected, because these intelligence individuals go back to some of them, the George H.W. Bush administration, as far as Clapper goes, and even Barack Obama's Secretary of Defense, when he runs on change in 2008 and he's elected. He didn't change anything. He keeps George H.W. Bush's director of Central Intelligence to lead his Pentagon. So it's not just the Obama administration. These are rogue elements within our intelligence community that go back to the Bush H.W. administration. They were definitely in the Bush W. administration when this guy was arrested, when Epstein was arrested for the first time. And the federal prosecutor was told he's intelligence and to let it go. Then he gets a sweetheart plea deal under George W. Bush. And Robert Mueller was the FBI director under George W. Bush. He was brought in just before 9/11 to clean up the intelligence failures, but there were no intelligence failures. They didn't want to stop 9/11, but he's the FBI director. He comes in under George W. Bush administration. And his deputy, James Comey, was there in the Bush administration under Robert Mueller. John Brennan was the station chief in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia at this time. They were all there. James Clapper, like I said, his service goes back to George H.W. Bush. But then he served under Barack Obama. He served under George W. Bush. He served under George H.W. Bush. So this is what is called the continuity of government. This is what Carol Quigley was talking about when he said that the two parties should be almost identical, because then the people will, think that they're throwing the rascals out in every election, but thinking that they're going to get a change in policy. But the new guy comes in and he keeps the same policy, because it's about continuity. And the guys that bring this continuity this is the deep state, people. This is the deep state. So they've convened a grand jury on the Russiagate scandal. I want you to listen to a little bit of this.
Forget how outrageous all of this is, so we thought we'd highlight the biggest revelations, starting with what the Director of National Intelligence was saying back then. Right after the election, DNI James Clapper wrote the following on December 7th of 2016. Quote, "We assess that foreign adversaries did not use cyber attacks on election infrastructure to alter the U.S. presidential outcome this year. We have no evidence of cyber manipulation of election infrastructure intended to alter results." Fast forward to 2019, and Clapper was singing a different tune after then Attorney General Bill Barr said the Trump campaign was spied upon.
I thought it was both stunning and scary. I was amazed at that and rather disappointed that the Attorney General would say such a thing. He just has a feeling that there was spying against the campaign. We're losing sight here of what started all this, and that was the Russian meddling, the Russian interference in our election process.
There's no evidence of that.
Russians pose a profound threat to this country.
No evidence of that.
No evidence.
No evidence.
Profound threat. That's quite a leap. And what about President Obama? A declassified document dated December 9th, 2016, reveals the intel community was working to produce a new assessment per Obama's request and seeking participation from the CIA, FBI, NSA, and DHS. Around that same time, here's what President Obama was saying publicly.
When I look back in terms of how we handled it, I think we handled it the way it should have been handled. Unless the American people genuinely think that the professionals in the CIA,
wow,
the FBI,
wow,
our entire intelligence infrastructure.
So that's the 17 agencies, all 17. You think all of our 17 agencies are wrong? No, that's what I'm telling people. They created the 17 agencies lie to give the FBI and the CIA credibility, because if they didn't have the credibility of all 17 agencies, nobody's going to believe these clowns. Nobody's going to believe them. No one's going to believe them if it's only them and Clapper and Mike Rogers from the NSA, who gave some of the assessment moderate confidence. And Mike Rogers actually went out and tipped off Trump at what these guys were doing.
Worthy than the Russians, then people should pay attention to what our intelligence agencies say.
Yeah, we paid attention to what they said about Saddam having weapons of mass destruction, bro. They have no credibility. What are you talking about? We've been paying attention. So, like I was saying, this is the deep state. This is the continuity of government through these rogue elements within the intelligence community. And like I was saying in the last podcast, I was referring back to the Declaration of Independence that states, as they're writing to King George III, that those who govern at the consent of the governed. That's how the people in Washington, we have a representative democracy. That's why we don't have a direct democracy. We have a representative democracy. We send 435 members of Congress to represent us in the House of Representatives. We send 100 senators to the Senate to represent us, and we elect an executive every 4 years to represent us. And they govern by our consent, is what the Declaration of Independence says. And I was explaining to you how it was the name that I was trying to think of that I couldn't think of when I was talking about these two different works, talking about the manufacturing and engineering of consent. It was Noam Chomsky who wrote The Manufacturing of Consent, but he was writing The Manufacturing of Consent, and he was making a relationship to Edward Bernays's The Engineering of Consent, where that the consent that we give the people that are governing over us is being engineered, is being manipulated on a mass scale to pry our consent from us, is what these guys did. And that's what the continuation of government, that's what they didn't want Trump to be president. And we're going to talk about why in a moment. But this is the deep state. Remember, again, this was Donald Trump was president of the United States. Look, or no, he was getting ready to be president of the United States. The date's right up there, January 4th, 2017. So this is actually 2 days before the assessment, because the assessment doesn't come out until January 6th. So this makes this even great. This is 2 days before the phony assessment that they put out on January 6th that Chuck Schumer is saying this.
These shots, this antagonism, this taunting to the intelligence community.
You take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you. So even for a practical, supposedly hard-nosed businessman, he's being really dumb to do this.
What do you think the intelligence community would do if they were
That's a good question. That's a good question. What would the intelligence community do? This guy's getting ready to be sworn. He was elected by the people. He was elected by the people to serve as chief executive, and he's getting ready to be sworn in as president of the United States in 16 days. And this guy is saying that you take on the intelligence community, which is getting ready to be his subordinates, that they have 6 ways of Sunday till Sunday at getting back at you, is what the minority leader in the Senate is saying here. This is crazy, but this is the deep state that if you defy the intelligence community, as Donald Trump is doing as president-elect, is the way that he saw it, they're going to get back at you. This is the deep state. This is what he's talking about.
Intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you. So even for a practical, supposedly hard-nosed businessman, he's being really dumb to do this.
What do you think the intelligence community would do if they were motivated?
I don't know, but from what I am told, they are very upset with how he has treated them and talked about them.
They're very upset. The intelligence community, who is getting ready to be, so nobody elected any of them. Nobody didn't get any votes from anyone. Cares if they're upset. They're very upset with him. Donald Trump was just elected by the people to be the president of the United States. They're subordinate to him. I don't care if they're upset. It's ridiculous.
What I am told, they are very upset with how he has treated them and talked about them. And we need the intelligence community. We don't know what's going on. Look at the Russian hacking.
Look at the Russian hacking. We need them. Look at the Russian hacking. Look at the Russian hacking. So this story is so, there's so many nuances, and it's very convoluted. There are a lot of pieces. There are a lot of pieces in Russiagate and Epstein, which is the same thing. This is a story about our intelligence community. There are a lot of pieces, and what I want to do on my podcast, a lot of people are talking about this from different angles. What I want to do is kind of help you understand the pieces and put the pieces together. And this is an article that was written by Matt Taibbi. We talked about Matt Taibbi in the beginning of last podcast. He was one of the 4 left-wing journalists. These people are on the left-wing journalists who have been reporting on Russiagate honestly for over a decade. And this is an article that he recently wrote about the new declassifications. You can go and listen to an audio version of the article, which we're going to listen to a little preview of it. But you can go to his Substack, which is called Racket News, and read the whole thing if you'd like. But this is the beginning of his article. Take a listen.
No doubt left. Russiagate was a cover-up. The most infuriatingly complex scandal of all time has just been reduced to a page or two, thanks to another declassified release. It was a cover-up. The Russiagate scandal has long been one of the most convoluted, hard-to-follow news stories of all time. It even has multiple names thanks to its peculiar chronology. From 2016 until April 2019, while the Democrats still held out hope of presidency-wrecking revelations that would topple Donald Trump, it was generally known as the Trump-Russia scandal. After Special Counsel Robert Mueller broke the hearts of MSNBC audiences by issuing a report without new indictments, attention began to be cast on the scandal's fraudulent construction, how it was propped up by political spying, illegal leaks, and WMD-style intelligence fakery. Trump and others began to call it Spygate, or the Russia hoax, but the name that stuck was Russiagate.
Obamagate.
Those of us who covered the story from the start had a difficult time explaining to audiences what it was, as we ourselves didn't know. Now we do, after a month of disclosures, capped yesterday by the release of an explosive and inexplicably long classified, annexed to the report of Special Counsel John Durham. Finally, it seems, we can explain how the idea that Donald Trump was gaffing his way toward treason through a secret love affair, really, with Vladimir Putin and extensive ties or links with Russia suddenly became the biggest story in the world in the summer of 2016. It wasn't the start of a corruption story about Trump, but the cover-up of a still unresolved Hillary Clinton scandal,
Yep. So that's what we learned from the recent annex documents from the John Durham investigation, who they've been telling you over and over again. John Durham was the special counsel. He looked into this stuff. He didn't find anything. He didn't find anything, and totally trying to discredit John Durham. This is John Durham when he testified in his own words. Take a listen.
Our findings were sobering. I can tell you, having spent 40 years plus as a federal prosecutor, they were particularly sobering to me. A number of my colleagues who spent decades in the FBI themselves, they were sobering.
How many times did he say sobering there? Our findings were sobering. They were sobering. They sobered me up.
Our findings were sobering. I can tell you, having spent 40 years plus as a federal prosecutor, they were particularly sobering to me. A number of my colleagues who spent decades in the FBI themselves, they were sobering.
Sobering.
While I'm encouraged by some of the reforms that have been implemented by the FBI, the problems identified in this report, anybody who actually reads the report and the details of the report, the documented portions of the report, I think would find that the problems identified in the report are not susceptible to overnight fixes. As we said in the report, they cannot be addressed solely by enhancing training or additional policy requirements. Rather, what is required is accountability, both in terms of the standards to which our law enforcement personnel hold themselves and in the consequences they face for violation of laws and policies of relevance.
So anyone who tells you that this guy didn't find anything in his investigation, they're lying to you. What he found out in his investigation was sobering, and he says that this cannot be fixed overnight. That the only way that you can fix what I found out in my investigation is by accountability. That's what he says. Okay, so let's get into some of this. We played a little bit of this clip in the last podcast and then ran out of time. Want to get into some of the disclosures that we found last week in these annex documents from John Durham. Take a listen.
And it turns out that Russia was orchestrated by Hillary Clinton and her campaign and Hillary herself. It was coordinated with media think tanks and the legacy media in the intel community to push Clinton over the finish line in 2016. It didn't work. But if Trump did win, they had a whole backup plan.
Insurance policy.
They were going to pin this whole thing on Donald Trump, which is exactly what they ended up doing. Newly declassified documents released just today by the Senate Judiciary Committee expose a Hillary Clinton conspiracy, a Democrat conspiracy to fabricate the Russia collusion hoax and the carefully crafted lie that Russia helped Donald Trump win the 2016 election. It was always a lie. They did not. Why would they want Trump in the Oval Office and not Hillary? They know Hillary. They've known the Clintons for 35 years at that point. And to all of you who were mocked for years for supporting Donald Trump, you have been vindicated tonight. Here is Soros Foundation Senior Vice President Leonard Bernardo in an email writing to a Clinton advisor named Julia that, quote, it will be a long-term affair to demonize Putin and Trump. Now it is good for a post-convention bounce. Later, the FBI will put more oil on the fire. Hillary is hardly good-looking as far as credibility is concerned. In another email, a Soros Foundation vice president says, quote, Hillary approved Julia's idea about Trump and Russian hackers hampering in U.S. elections. That should distract people from her own missing emails. Think about that. And now,
think about that, because that's what we talked about in the last podcast, is that her motivation is not because Democrats had suffered all these electoral losses throughout Obama's two terms. Going back to 2010 is when they started bleeding, and they had all these electoral losses. And she's a horrible candidate. And plus, she had this baggage of her own email scandals because she had set up this private server at her home in Chappaqua and had deleted and destroyed all this information under congressional subpoena. We talked about all that in the last podcast, how she was under subpoena. And then after she gets the subpoena, she immediately goes and starts deleting emails, wiping hard drives. And as you go and watch Comey's, when he comes out and he absolves her and says, that she did all this stuff, but she didn't intend to do it, so I'm not going to recommend charges. Completely ridiculous. I mean, when he says, when you go and watch that press conference that James Comey gives in early July, where he absolves her of any wrongdoing in their investigation into her, he admits that she destroys all of these hard drives and all this hardware. And he says that it's not just one server, that she had up to 5 servers, and she wiped the hard drives with bleach bit, that she hit the Blackberries with the hammers and destroyed them after having a congressional subpoena. If you go and watch the press conference of Comey, he admits that she does all that, but he says that she didn't intend to obstruct justice. This is what he says. That she didn't intend to obstruct justice, but those were just routine maintenance. That was just routine maintenance, is what he says. You don't do routine maintenance like that when you're under congressional subpoena. But that's what she did, and deleted all the emails and all this stuff. And that was a huge scandal for her. So she had to create a scandal to counterbalance her own scandal. She had to create a scandal into Trump, is what she did. And that's what we learned last week with Open Society. George Soros. Why? I was telling you, this has to do with Ukraine, folks. This is about Ukraine. The reason that all of these players played in on this, and not only Democrats, Republicans too. We're going to talk about a few of them in just a moment. All these people who supported bringing Ukraine into the West, into the EU at least, and eventually into NATO. All these people with that foreign policy ideal, those are the people that wanted Hillary Clinton. And some Republicans, like I'm telling you, they wanted Hillary Clinton to be president of the United States so they could have this continuity in Ukraine, because the Ukraine war started in 2014. So now we're in 2016. If you want the continuity of that foreign policy, then Hillary Clinton was the candidate that was going she was going to be there to oversee the continuity of policy. So, and if Trump comes in, then he is going to change the policy. He's going to try to make friends with Putin. He's going to try to do what he's doing now. It would have been much easier back then, but to negotiate a peaceful settlement in Ukraine. So we don't have a decade of war now. We have peace. Do you think it's an accident that Joe Biden, when he says he's not going to pardon his son, that he pardons his son for everything going back to 2014 when his son started working for Burisma the first time? It was a loot job in Ukraine. That's why George Soros was involved. George Soros's NGO. They were very influential in starting Euromaidan and the protest to Euromaidan when Yanukovych decided to do a trade deal with Russia instead of the EU. His NGO that had been in Ukraine going back to 1990. You have to go back and watch the interview that George Soros does with Christine, or what's her name, who was she was the second vice prime minister, I guess what they call it, in Canada. What's her name? I can't remember her name, but she was the second to Trudeau in Canada, and she does this interview with George Soros. I don't remember when it was, but he tells you everything, that his foundation and NGO were heavily involved in Euromaidan and what his goals were. He talks about this, that he was planning on investing $1 billion in Ukraine. This is in March of 2015, before you're getting into the 2015 election. He says this, Trump's not the nominee. He doesn't know who the Republican nominee is going to be, but he says Soros is ready to invest $1 billion in Ukraine if, there's a caveat, if the West helps, that he's going to invest $1 billion if the West helps. So that's what all of this was about. It was about Ukraine. You have to understand that's why they wanted Hillary Clinton, that all these players all these players from MI6 to Australian diplomats like Alexander Downer, to Joseph Mifsud from Italy. All these players were involved because they wanted the continuity of the foreign policy in Ukraine. That's what this is about. So that's why that was the motivation for George Soros to want Hillary Clinton, not just because she was a Democrat and he supports the Democrat candidate. It was about ensuring the return on his investment in Ukraine and to have the continuity of policy in Ukraine from Obama to Clinton. That was the plan. And her motivation was to counterbalance her own scandal because of her email scandal and all these things that she did to obstruct justice. So that was her motivation as well.
From her own missing emails. Think about that. And now think about everything you've been told by the media for the last decade, the last 10 years. And now we have what looks like direct evidence that Hillary Clinton's campaign and Hillary herself came up with the Russian collusion narrative from the start, and then Hillary rubber stamped it. Hillary approved of it in coordination with George Soros' Open Society, which really isn't that open, is it, George? And the reason? Well, Hillary Clinton was an absolutely horrible candidate and an even worse person. The email scandal was killing her campaign. Remember when she was asked about her private email server and those 30,000 plus emails that suddenly just disappeared?
That's all I could say. I have no idea. That's why we turned it over.
You were in charge of it. You were the official in charge. Did you wipe the server?
What, like with a cloth or something?
I don't know.
Well,
you know
no.
how it works digitally. Did you try to wipe the whole server?
I don't know how it works digitally at all. I do not have any.
You did not try.
Ed, I know you want to make a point, and I can just repeat what I have said.
You know how it works, Hillary? You hit the delete button and the emails go away.
No, she used BleachBit.
30,000 emails in a lifetime. Hillary did it in a couple of days.
Hillary
deleted that server, then
and it wasn't only one server; it's up to 5 servers. She wiped them. She wiped the hard drives with BleachBit after getting a congressional subpoena. Then deleted all the emails, and then hit the Blackberries with the hammers. Christia Freeland. Freeland is her name. And I'll just show you. I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name, first name correctly, but she was the deputy prime minister in Canada. You have to go and watch the entire interview that she does with George Soros. And I don't remember when it was, but go to YouTube and you watch it. George Soros tells you everything about.
Joked about it in public, and when the media
his
asked her
involvement in Euromaidan and what the plan was.
She mocked the media and got away with it. She said she wiped the server with a cloth. At the time, that was a big scandal. And Donald Trump was surging at that time in the polls, but nobody was talking about that. So the Clinton campaign needed to act, so they invented this lie.
That's exactly what happened.
No. Russia hacking the election to elect Trump is the end of our democracy. Votes were definitely affected. Russia hacked the election to tilt it to Mr. Trump.
The Russians definitively hacked the election.
Russia did hack the election. No doubt. The Russians hacked the election.
Yes, Russia hacked the election.
President-elect Donald Trump still not sounding convinced that Russia hacked the election.
So after that, the legacy media, as you can see, they were all in. And that gave Hillary Clinton the cover that she needed to build her twisted little plot against Donald Trump.
This has come from the highest levels of the Russian government, clearly from Putin himself, in an effort, as 17 of our intelligence agencies have confirmed, to influence our election. He'd rather have a puppet as president of the United States.
No puppet.
And it's pretty clear.
You're the puppet.
It's pretty clear you won't admit that the
puppet.
Russians have engaged in cyber attacks. You are willing to spout the Putin line, sign up for his wish list, break up NATO, do whatever he wants to do, and that you continue to get help from him because he has a very clear favorite in this race.
People at that time said Donald Trump was hiding something. He was just like, what are you talking about? This is all a lie. And why won't anyone believe me? Well, we believe you now.
I believed him back then.
That lie became the official position of the Democratic Party after that, and by extension, the official narrative of the U.S. government under Barack Obama, who was president when all that was happening. Remember that? Barack was in the Oval Office.
That's why it's Obamagate.
Tipped the scales in Hillary's favor. And the funniest thing, this all didn't work. Donald Trump became president, and then he became president again. But it was a lie that every Democrat then wanted to believe. And it was a lie that was so powerful that millions of Americans today still believe it if you ask them. But tonight, you can go to sleep knowing that you were not crazy back then. And that even though all this never made any sense to you, you can go to bed tonight knowing that it was, in fact, all a lie. It was never true.
Yeah, I knew back then.
Let's get back to the emails released today. Another Soros vice president said in yet another email, this is a quote, "In the absence of direct evidence, CrowdStrike and Threat Connect will supply the media," which is...
So this is what the Leonard Bernardo says in this email. In the absence of direct evidence. We don't have any evidence, people. We don't have any evidence. We don't have any evidence that Russia, that Putin ordered the GRU to carry out this operation and that they hacked. There's no evidence they hacked the DNC. There's no the Facebook ads that they bought, that they told us Russia bought these Facebook ads to micro target audiences to target with propaganda. $100,000 in Facebook ads. $100,000 in Facebook ads. What was the guy's name that was running Trump's campaign in? I don't remember his name. That he was running the campaign in 2016, his media campaign. God, what's his name? Anyway, he says $100,000. He made fun of it. He was like $100,000. You can't convince anybody to do anything with $100,000 in Facebook ads. But the Facebook ads were purchased, just a measly little $100,000. He's God, I can't remember his name. He said, "Man, I'm spending millions of dollars a day on Facebook, and you're gonna talk to me about $100,000 in Facebook ads, and the Russians turned the election, but they paid for the Facebook ads using rubles." Oh, using rubles. Yeah, of course it was the Russians. They used rubles to pay for the ads. I mean, this is all a phony frame job to frame Russia from the beginning. But in this article from Soros, from this Soros exec, he says, in the absence of evidence, we don't have any evidence. CrowdStrike and Threat Connect, who are both private cyber security firms that Hillary Clinton and the DNC hired, private firms that they hired, CrowdStrike and Threat Connect, will supply the media, and the GRU will hopefully carry on to give more facts, is what he says. And so CrowdStrike, a private firm who they hired, they're the ones who did the forensic investigation of the servers. The FBI never got the opportunity to do the forensic investigation. They just took CrowdStrike's word for it, the people who they hired. This is insane.
Remarkable, because that's 2016 technology, meaning private companies were involved in all of this as well.
They hired.
Was somehow responsible for handing over evidence to the FBI. Remember this?
Were you given access to do the forensics on those servers?
We were not. We were a highly respected private company.
A highly respected private company. Why do we need to know they're highly respected? They're a private company, James Comey. They're a private company. Why does he have to put that in there? A highly respected private company are the ones who told us that it was the Russians. I don't care if they're highly respected to who? They're highly respected to you. They're not highly respected to me. They're being paid by the Hillary Clinton campaign and the Democrats. Care how highly respected they are? It's a clown show.
CrowdStrike was somehow responsible for handing over evidence to the FBI. Remember this?
Were you given access to do the forensics on those servers?
We were not. We were a highly respected private company, eventually got access and shared with us what they saw there.
What is that?
That was the Russians, the private company that Hillary Clinton and the Democrats hired, that we didn't get to look at the servers, but, they told us it was the Russians, and they're highly respected. How can we not take their word for it?
Access and shared with us what they saw there.
But is that typically the way the FBI would prefer to do the forensics, or would your forensics unit rather feel the servers and do the forensics themselves?
We'd always prefer to have access hands-on ourselves.
Yeah, I bet you would, possible. Buddy. Yeah, I bet you would.
Denied access to those servers.
I don't know for sure.
Okay, so a lot going on right there, but obviously the FBI prefers to handle evidence directly. But in this case, isn't that interesting?
Very interesting.
Director Comey let a third party handle it, a third party called CrowdStrike, because the FBI was in on it at that time. Mm-hmm. In another exchange, the Soros vice president said, quote, "I suggest writing something about a task from someone, I don't know, some dark forces like the FBI, for instance, or better yet, Clinton sympathizers in the intel community, Pentagon, Deep State, about American websites acting in accordance with Putin to undermine good in the elections in the interest of Donald Trump." That right there is proof that the Deep State works. Do you have any more questions? Case closed. They were all in on it. Mm-hmm. But to the left, and this is really important, to the left, the Deep State doesn't exist.
Yeah, that's what they say.
Because the Deep State are them. Their colleagues, their friends, business partners, anyone who hates Donald Trump in Washington, D.C., that's the Deep State.
That is the Deep State. That's the Deep State. All right. So, like I was telling you, that this is all about Ukraine. That they wanted the continuity between the Obama administration to keep the same foreign policy, and then bring Clinton on. Clinton was Secretary of State, and Victoria Nuland was working in the State Department under her, and Clinton may have been gone by the time Euromaidan happened. I'm not sure if she was the Secretary of State or they had brought Kerry in at this point, but she was Secretary of State. So they wanted that continuity. They wanted to bring her in, and then boom, business as usual in Ukraine. We can get the war started as soon as possible. If Trump comes in, he is going to wreck our plan, and he's going to destroy my investment, is what George Soros says. And even some Democrats, that's why even some Republicans, that's why John McCain and Lindsey Graham and Amy Klobuchar went over to Ukraine to tell Poroshenko and his troops that it's going to be business as usual, even though we're not getting the president who we thought we were going to get. We thought we were going to get Hillary Clinton, but Donald Trump ends up winning the election. So real quick, before Donald Trump is sworn in on January 20th, this is in December. You can see the Christmas tree back here. This is in December while Trump's president-elect. They want to make sure that they go over and they tell Poroshenko and his troops that don't worry, that Donald Trump's going to come in, but we're going to make sure that we have continuity. We're going to make sure that we keep the same policy, and and next year is actually going to be a year of offense. How do you know that Donald Trump wants offense? Why are you over there doing his foreign policy? Donald Trump probably wants to come in and make peace and to negotiate a peace deal. But no, Lindsey Graham, John McCain, Amy Klobuchar are over there while Trump is president-elect, at the same time that they're manufacturing this Russia scandal to pin on Trump, because to force him to take a hard line with Russia. That's what that was about as well. And the relationship with Russia and the Trump administration was spoiled from the beginning. That's what they wanted. And they're over there doing his foreign policy before he gets sworn in.
Your fight is our fight. 2017 will be the year of offense. All of us will go back to Washington and we will push the case against Russia. Enough of a Russian aggression. It is time for them to pay a heavier price.
All right, it's time for them to pay a heavier price. Donald Trump's president-elect. President-elect is going to be sworn in a matter of weeks. They're over there doing Trump's foreign policy, letting Poroshenko and his troops know that we're going to make sure that we're in the Senate, that we're going to go back bipartisan. Amy Klobuchar is here as a Democrat. You have 2 Republicans here. We're going to make sure that we go back and we push the case to have the continuity of foreign policy, that Trump can't come in and implement a new foreign policy. And then immediately after talking to Poroshenko's troops, Lindsey Graham and John McCain come outside and they do a press conference and they push the phony Russian hacking into the elections narrative.
We're going to go back and tell our colleagues what Russia's up to in the Baltics, what they're doing in the Ukraine. We're going to get briefed about Georgia. We hope to make 2017 a year of offense. We believe that Putin has hacked into our elections in America, that he's trying to undermine democracy all over the world, and it's time for new sanctions to hit him hard as an individual, his energy sector, his banking sector.
All right, so we want 2017. Trump isn't even sworn in yet. He's the president of the United States. He's the one who the American people elected to implement his foreign policy, that John McCain and Lindsey Graham are over there saying, we want 2017 to be a year of offense. We're going to take it to Russia. We're going to have this continuity of policy. And that is why after the Mueller investigation, after Mueller comes in and he's appointed special counsel, they create the phony Russia scandal with coming out with the leaks that Jeff Sessions met with Sergei Lavrov as senator, and that was a huge scandal. He recuses himself. Rod Rosenstein comes in and he appoints Mueller to be the special prosecutor. It shouldn't have taken Mueller more than a couple of weeks to wrap up the case. That there's nothing to see here, even if you believe that Russia did all the stuff that you said that they did, which there's no evidence of. The Trump part, the collusion part, it should have taken him no longer than a few weeks, a few months. I'll give him a few months. It should not have taken him 2 years to reach the conclusion that there was no collusion, but they knew there was no collusion from the beginning because they set it up, and they keep the investigation going for 2 years beyond the 2018 election, so they could use this scandal in the 2018 midterms to win back all those House seats, which they did. He keeps it going for 2 years, and then he comes out and he tells everyone that there's no collusion. There's no collusion, and Trump was not colluding with Russia. But then they'd been talking about impeaching Trump as soon as the Democrats took the House of Representatives after the 2018 election. Immediately, they started in 2019. All of these representatives, like what's his name from Houston, the guy that waved his cane at Trump in the last speech to the joint session. God, I don't remember his name, from Houston though. Anyway, he brought a couple of foolish articles of impeachment in the House of Representatives that didn't go anywhere. A couple of other people tried to impeach Trump for the emoluments clause and some other stuff that didn't go anywhere. They never got Nancy Pelosi to get behind impeachment in the House of Representatives until the phone call with Zelensky. Again, this goes all back to Ukraine. That the thing that got Nancy Pelosi saying that we need to impeach this guy now, and they introduced the articles of impeachment on formally on Trump's first impeachment. It all has to do with Ukraine. It all has to do with Ukraine. And the narrative that they told you is that that Trump was trying to bribe Zelensky into saying, we're not going to send you arms unless you do an investigation into my opponent. I mean, the primary hadn't even started for 2020 yet, but Joe Biden was his presumptive opponent. Joe Biden, who happened to be vice president and ran everything in Ukraine under the Obama administration. Not Joe Biden. That Joe Biden, whose son was actually working for a corrupt energy company and got a pardon going all the way back to his work with that corrupt energy company in Ukraine. That's Joe Biden. But because Donald Trump was asking, and if you listen, we're going to listen to a little bit of the back and forth because they released the transcript and the phone call was reenacted by Vice. We're going to listen to a little bit of that here in a moment. They released the transcript. We know what was said and when it was said. Yes, Donald Trump does ask Zelensky to work with the attorney general in there was an open investigation that was already going on into Hunter Biden. He was convicted on 2 of those charges that they were investigating him on. The tax charge and the gun charge. He was convicted on those. His father gave him a pardon going back to 2014. So there was when Trump is talking to Zelensky in this phone call that the Democrats impeach him for after he had just suffered through a 2-year-long special counsel investigation, that scandal. They immediately move into another scandal, the impeachment scandal that ironically had to do with Ukraine and the phone call that Donald Trump was having with Zelensky. But even in the part where he talks about Hunter Biden and Zelensky's people working with the attorney general in this investigation, that's not digging up dirt. There's already an investigation into this guy, and he was pardoned for it after he was convicted for some of this stuff that he was being investigated for. This is so corrupt, people. This is so corrupt. But in the beginning of the conversation, what Donald Trump is asking Zelensky about, when they are actually talking about the weapons, when Donald Trump says, I want you to do me a favor, they're talking about CrowdStrike. Donald Trump is asking about CrowdStrike. And he's asking about these servers that had only been investigated and only been looked at by CrowdStrike, this private firm that the Hillary Clinton campaign and the Democrats hired. They did the forensic investigation. And then after they did the forensic investigation, they disposed of the servers and the hardware. They're the ones. The FBI didn't look at this stuff. So they disposed of this stuff. And that's what Donald Trump is talking about when he's talking to Zelensky in this phone call that he's impeached for. So I want you to listen to a little bit of the fake performed conversation that Adam Schiff does as the chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee when they're introducing these articles of impeachment. And if you don't remember, there was a whistleblower who was on the call with Trump, and he hears the conversation, immediately runs to Adam Schiff. Adam Schiff tells Nancy Pelosi, "Oh, we got to impeach him now. We got to impeach him now because of this phone call." But this is the fake, conversation that Adam Schiff made up in his head, and he reads this as the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee. It's crazy.
And so what happened on that call? Zelensky begins by ingratiating himself, and he tries to enlist the support of the president. He expresses his interest in meeting with the president and says his country wants to acquire more weapons from us to defend itself. And what is the president's response? Well, it reads like a classic organized crime shakedown. Shorn of its rambling character and in not so many words, this is the essence of what the president communicates.
The essence.
We've been very good to your country. Very good. No other country has done as much as we have. But you know what? I don't see much reciprocity here. I hear what you want. I have a favor I want from you, though. And I'm going to say this only 7 times, so you better listen good. I want you to make up dirt on my political opponent. Understand? Lots of it. On this and on that.
Make up
I'm
dirt.
going to put you in touch with people.
There's enough dirt on him, bro. There was enough dirt on him. Nobody needs to make up dirt. He got pardoned for the dirt. His father pardoned him for it. But this became the narrative that they impeached Trump for. That when he says in the phone conversation that I want you to do me a favor, though, but that we're not going to give you the weapons unless you do me the favor to make up dirt on my political opponent. I can't believe the American people fell for this. that's the favor that he's asking for. That's not what he's talking about in the phone call. They released the transcript of the phone call. We have the unclassified transcript of the entire conversation here. And like I was telling you, Vice, the Canadian news outlet, they did a reenactment of the phone conversation based on the transcript. I want you to listen to what Donald Trump says to Zelensky in this phone call and the real tone and back and forth that was going on, not this made up stuff that Adam Schiff, this clown needs to be indicted as well. Take a listen.
Congratulations on a great victory. We all watched from the United States and you did a terrific job. The way you came from behind somebody who wasn't given much of a chance and you ended up winning easily. It's a fantastic achievement. Congratulations.
You are absolutely right, Mr. President.
She's reading Zelensky.
And we worked hard for this. We worked a lot, but I would like to confess to you that I had an opportunity to learn from you. We used quite a few of your skills and knowledge and were able to use it as an example for our elections. And yes, it is true that these were unique elections. We were in a unique situation that we were able to achieve a unique success. I'm able to tell you the following the first time. You called me to congratulate me when I won my presidential election. And the second time, you are now calling me when my party won the parliamentary election. I think I should run more often so you can call me more often and we can talk over the phone more often.
That's a very good idea. I think your country is very happy about that.
Well, yes. To tell you the truth, we are trying to work hard because we wanted to drain the swamp here in our country. We brought in many new people.
And the conversation is friendly. The back and forth is very different from the way Adam Schiff reads this fake, script that he read in the Intelligence Committee. It's ridiculous. These people, what they did is ridiculous.
Not the old politicians, not the typical politicians, because we want to have a new format and a new type of government. You are a great teacher for us, and in that.
Well, it's very nice of you to say that. I will say that we do a lot for Ukraine. We spend a lot of effort and a lot of time. Much more than the European countries are doing, and they should be helping you more than they are. Germany does almost nothing for you. All they do is talk, and I think it's something that you should really ask them about. When I was speaking to Angela Merkel, she talks Ukraine, but she doesn't do anything. A lot of the European countries are the same way, so I think it's something you want to look at. But the United States has been very, very good to Ukraine. I wouldn't say that it's reciprocal necessarily, because things are happening that are not good, but the United States has been very, very good to Ukraine.
Yes, you are absolutely right. Not only 100%, but actually 1,000%.
Yeah, we have been good to you.
I can tell you the following. I did talk to Angela Merkel, and I did meet with her. I also met and talked with Macron, and I told them that they are not doing quite as much as they need to be doing on the issues with the sanctions. They are not enforcing the sanctions.
No, they're still buying Russian
working as much as they should
gas.
work for Ukraine. It turns out that even though logically the European Union should be our biggest partner, but technically the United States is a much bigger partner than the European Union, and I'm very grateful to you for that, because the United States is doing quite a lot for Ukraine. Much more than the European Union, especially when we are talking about sanctions against the Russian Federation. I would also like to thank you for your great support in the area of defense. We are ready to continue to cooperate for the next step. Specifically, we are almost ready to buy more javelins from the United States for defense purposes.
I would like you to do us a favor, though, because...
All right, so to understand what's happening, that the United States is very, very good to you. We're very good to you. And then and Zelensky agrees, yeah, you guys are better, are very good to us, better than the French, better than the Germans. We agree on that. And then Zelensky moves into, we want to buy some more javelins, okay? And then Trump says, I would like you to do me a favor, though. What favor is Trump talking about as far as these javelins go?
Federation. I would also like to thank you for your great support in the area of defense. We are ready to continue to cooperate for the next step. Specifically, we are almost ready to buy more javelins from the United States for defense purposes.
I would like you to do us a favor, though, because our country has been through a lot, and Ukraine knows a lot about it. I would like you to find out what happened with this whole situation with Ukraine. They say crowd strike. I guess you have one of your wealthy people. The server, they say Ukraine has it. There are a lot of...
They say, so somebody told Trump that Ukraine, that that CrowdStrike took the servers that the FBI didn't have the opportunity to do a forensic study on. They took them to Ukraine to dispose of. Somebody told Trump that. Does it have anything to do with Hunter Biden? The favor didn't have anything to do with Hunter Biden. The favor didn't have anything to do with Joe Biden and the reason that they impeached them. Whoever was listening onto this call, the whistleblower who ran to Adam Schiff and said, oh my God, they're talking about CrowdStrike. They're talking about CrowdStrike in this conversation. That's why they impeached Trump. Because going back to CrowdStrike, the private firm that Hillary Clinton and the DNC hired to inspect the servers that they said that the Russians hacked. Who's this wealthy person that Trump is talking about? Well, Dmitry Alpevich, Pervovich. This guy is one of the founders of CrowdStrike. He's Russian. He's born in Russia. He's been very critical of Vladimir Putin. And they did work in Ukraine. And someone told Trump, as president of the United States, that this guy, the founder of CrowdStrike, this Russian, took the servers, the DNC servers that they didn't let the FBI inspect, and they disposed of them in CrowdStrike. And that's what this guy who was on the phone call with Donald Trump heard. And then after the 2-year-long special counsel investigation that they were using to cover up, then they initiate the impeachment based on this phone call. Because after Mueller comes out and says, there is no collusion, then Trump was like, okay, there was no collusion. I'm absolved of this whole thing. Now let's find out how this lie started. Let's find out. Let's do some investigating on and get to the bottom of where this Rushgate. So that's what the conversation was about with Zelensky, is part of this investigation. Yes, he does say later on in the phone call, you still have over 6 minutes of this phone call. And he does say later on in the phone call that he wants Zelensky to assist the attorney general in open investigations that they had into Hunter Biden. He does say that. But when he says that, it has nothing to do with this favor. It has nothing to do with the javelins. When he's talking about the javelins and the favor, it's all about CrowdStrike. It's all about CrowdStrike. All right, so I'm almost done. I have a few more minutes. I want to talk about what Bill Maher did this weekend and talking about this story, because it was completely dishonest. And this stuff is not working anymore. You guys, if you look, are you looking at the recent numbers of viewership of mainstream media? It's down significantly. Some of these stations like CNN are down 40% in the prime demos. MSNBC 30%. Nobody is watching this anymore. And the stuff like what Bill Maher did this weekend is completely dishonest. Completely dishonest. And he bought the story from the beginning. And this is and he's having a hard time letting it go. Because you remember
the part that's incontrovertible, which is that the Russians meddled in the election. All 17 of our intelligence agencies say that. You would agree to that, right? Well, all 17 of.
So he bought it from the beginning. So what he did, I don't have very much time, but I want to talk about what he did this weekend, because he started getting into this on his show, and he still believes that there was Russian meddling. There's been no evidence of Russian meddling at all. But just like he said in that clip that I just played, he believed the lie about all 17 intelligence agencies without seeing a bit of evidence. But what he does here is so dishonest. He's trying to manipulate his audience. And again, this is not working anymore. That people are paying attention more to podcasts and what's going on X and TikTok. They're not paying attention to what's going on his show. So he can't really tell lies like this anymore without further discrediting himself. But take a listen to what he says here.
I would like to take exception to this analogy, because this has really obsessed me while I was off this.
Obsessed.
Because Tulsi Gabbard is going after the Democrats. She says Obama is a traitor, basically, who tried to pull off a coup. That's rich. She said President Obama and his national security cabinet members manufactured and politicized intelligence to lay the groundwork for what was essentially a years-long coup. It's the I know you
2 years.
My defense. But, it has astonished me for quite a while that a lot of people, not just on the right, people sort of in the middle.
So what is he saying when he's saying that? A lot of people, not just on the right, but people in the middle. That's why I was explaining to you about these journalists like Michael Schellenberg, who's on the left, Matt Taibbi, who's on the left, Aaron Mattei, who's on the left. Glenn Greenwald is on the left. So when he's saying this, that it's not just people that are on the right, but people in the middle, he's talking about people like that have been on this story for a decade and calling BS on Russiagate.
Have been saying for a very long time now that Russiagate was a nothing burger. I think it makes them feel like I was the smart one who said that all along. Russiagate was not a nothing burger. It was a burger.
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't a juicy steak.
Maybe it wasn't a juicy steak. It goes from burger to steak. What are you talking about? It was nothing. It was manufactured, bro. It wasn't a nothing burger. It was a burger. What does that mean?
Have been saying for a very long time now that Russiagate was a nothing burger. I think it makes them feel like I was the smart one who said that all along. Russiagate was not a nothing burger. It was a burger. Maybe it wasn't a juicy steak, but it was a burger. I would like to show you one little piece of tape, and then we could talk about it.
One little piece of tape.
Because their contention is that, Putin had no preference in this election. That's why we know this was a conspiracy of Obama. I remember this from Helsinki. They're asking Putin directly in Helsinki.
Found in an appropriate
did you want
legal
President
framework.
Trump to win the election, and did you direct any of your officials to help him do that?
So that's two questions. President Putin, did you want President Trump to win? That's the first question. And the second question is, did you direct any of your officials from the GRU to help him do that? All right. So Bill Maher plays the answer to one question, to one of the questions, the question of did you want Donald Trump to win? And he cuts it right after that. And that's what these Democrats do.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Oh, there it is. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Folks, the big scandal after the Helsinki press conference was that Putin said that he didn't meddle in the election, and Donald Trump believed him. Donald Trump said, I don't see why he would have done it. He says that he didn't. I don't see why. And that became the big scandal. Oh, Donald Trump doesn't believe our 17 intelligence agencies. And this guy cuts the video after Putin manipulating his audience. And that's what the Democrats do. It's the same thing that they did with the fine people lie, that Donald Trump said that neo-Nazis were fine people, but if you just play the clip a little bit longer, he says, I'm not talking about neo-Nazis because they should be condemned. But the Democrats cut that off. It's just like the speech on the ellipse when Donald Trump says we're going to march down to the Capitol and be peaceful and patriotic. They cut that off. That's not going to work anymore. It's not going to work anymore. Hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. I'll see you guys on Friday, and we'll get back into this. Have a good week.